Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Leah.
And I'm Mike.
And we're starting out our month with Unit 1, which is a good place to start, and with our sports section. So this month we are looking at tiny skateboards, big challenges. I remember my kids being younger, and having tech decks around the house, those little skateboards that we're going to talk about today. Have you ever had a tech deck, Mike?
I've never had a fingerboard. No, actually, I've never had a skateboard either. Skateboarding, of course, is something I'm sure most people are familiar with, kind of developed in the 60s and 70s in Southern California. So surfers had fun boards to ride during the cold winter months when surfing on the sea wasn't so possible or so attractive a hobby to engage in during the cold weather. And now, of course, skateboarding is an Olympic sport. It's done all around the world. And I guess there are places in the world, I'm thinking of where I'm from, Canada, where you can't skateboard in the winter time because there's snow all over the ground. And it might make sense that fingerboards were developed by a Canadian company. You mentioned Tech Deck.
Yeah.
That's the company that's kind of well known for making these tiny little finger skateboards or fingerboards. And yeah, in the middle of February, when there's snow and ice outside, you can't really get your skateboard out and take it out on the road, but you can enjoy your fingerboard from the warmth and comfort of your own bedroom or inside your house. And I guess, like many other weird activities that humans start to do, after a few years it catches on and suddenly it becomes a perfectly normal hobby, riding a skateboard with your fingers.
Could be a Guinness World Record setter somewhere.
I'm sure someone already has done something incredible with fingerboards. And who knows, maybe in a few more years it'll be in the Olympics too. Anything is possible.
So let's get into our story for today. But before we do that, let's listen to the whole thing one time. Have you ever thought about playing with a skateboard by using just your fingers? Fingerboarding is a sport in which riders use their middle and index fingers to control a tiny skateboard. Even though these skateboards are only a few centimeters long, they enable players to execute a variety of impressive tricks on a tabletop. The origin of fingerboarding can be traced back to an American skateboard enthusiast. Unable to practice skateboarding outdoors on rainy days, he reportedly started using his fingers to control a mini skateboard indoors. This creative idea gradually evolved into the fingerboarding we see today. Lance Mountain is widely credited as the inventor of the earliest version of the modern fingerboard, which was made from cardboard, toy car wheels, and axles. In the 1990s, a Canadian toy company launched the Tech Deck brand, successfully bringing fingerboarding to the global market. While fingerboarding may seem simple, mastering it is not easy. Basic tricks like the ollie require precise coordination between the middle and index fingers to make the skateboard pop into the air. More advanced tricks, such as the kickflip, involve flipping the board 360 degrees during a jump, which demands practice and finger skill. Ready to give it a try? Grab a fingerboard and start practicing. You might just get hooked on this tiny, challenging sport.
Okay, let's get into our article. So, Tiny Skateboards' Big Challenges is our title. That gives us an idea of A, what we're talking about, tiny or very small skateboards, and B, what you might not expect that actually riding, using, playing, performing on a tiny skateboard with just your fingers is a big challenge. It's, yes, I'm sure, much, much harder than it looks.
It really is. You don't get these things to move the way you think they should.
Right? And I mean, even for an experienced skateboarder, you're probably kind of relearning the sport because it would be very different from doing it with your legs, with your body weight outside, you're doing it inside with just your fingers and your hands. So yeah, our article begins with a question to kind of, pique our interest and get us thinking about this very unusual topic.
Have you ever thought about playing with a skateboard by using just your fingers? Now, Mike has already told us what a skateboard is, but have you ever thought of using your fingers instead of your feet to ride on a skateboard? I mean, I've seen dogs ride on skateboards, and I've seen people ride on skateboards, but how would you ride on a skateboard with your fingers? Well, of course, we're not talking about a normal size skateboard. You're not doing a handstand on your skateboard going down the road. But yeah, we're talking about something different. We're talking about fingerboarding. So it is a sport, which I don't know that it's necessarily going to be titled that, but it is titled that, a sport in which riders use their middle and index fingers to control a tiny skateboard. So your index finger is your pointer finger, and your middle finger, of course, is the one in the middle of your hand. It's the one that if you hold that one up alone, you will probably make some people very angry at you. And yeah, you're riding around on a little bitty skateboard, and these skateboards are really tiny. They're tiny just meaning very small, even though these skateboards are only a few centimeters long. So we're talking really, really small. They enable players to execute a variety of impressive tricks on a tabletop. So even though there is this thing about them, they're quite small, they still can do something. They can enable or let or make it possible for players, fingerboarding players, to execute, to carry out a variety, a broad mixture of impressive tricks on a tabletop.
Absolutely. That is very, very interesting. And then we get to our next paragraph. The origin of fingerboarding can be traced back to an American skateboard enthusiast. Okay, so the origin, where it started from, who first invented it or who first developed this sport, go back to the beginning of the fingerboarding story. And where would we find ourselves? In America with an American skateboard enthusiast. And wow, just kind of like how skateboarding developed out of people who couldn't surf, this is a skateboarder who couldn't go out on his board. It says, unable to practice skateboarding outdoors on rainy days, he reportedly started using his fingers to control a mini skateboard indoors.
I call that ultimate boredom. I don't know about you.
Yeah, this is definitely before the days of Netflix and things like that, where you had 24-hour stimulus. This guy was bored. He couldn't go outside. It's a rainy day. It's probably quite dangerous to skateboard in the rain. It will be slippery, and I think sometimes the rainwater can damage the wheels and the metal parts of the skateboard,
the bearings,
too.
Yeah.
I do remember that from my youth. So he couldn't go outside. The weather was just bad. It wasn't skateboarding weather. He was stuck inside, feeling bored, and he reportedly, this is the story, this is, the story that has come down to us through fingerboarding history. He started using his fingers to control a mini skateboard indoors. I guess he designed it himself, found a little piece of plastic, stuck a few little model wheels or Lego wheels or something like that on the bottom. And he does this kind of like doing tricks probably on books and things around the house. And he kind of had a bit of fun with it. It says this creative idea gradually evolved into the fingerboarding we see today. I mean, I think most sports probably evolved from something like a bunch of people or one people sitting around feeling a little bored and deciding to make a game to entertain themselves. And that is generally where this sport also came from. We have a name here. It says Lance Mountain. What a great name. Lance Mountain is widely credited as the inventor of the earliest version of the modern fingerboard. I guess we're assuming that this is Lance Mountain. This was the young man who was stuck inside on a rainy day, bored. He's credited. He's given the credit. He is the one we sort of recognize as being the inventor of this very early version of modern fingerboarding. Like a lot of sports equipment, if you saw this early fingerboard, it would probably look quite different from the ones made today. That one was made, it says, from cardboard, toy car wheels, and axles. Yeah, so basically little things he had lying around his house. The toy car wheels, he might have gotten off one of his little Hot Wheels or other types of toy cars like, kids play with. An axle is basically that metal bar that connects the two wheels on either side of the car. If you break the axle, then the car won't be going very far because the wheels are no longer connected together. But if you're thinking of, the simplest kind of car or carriage or train wagon or something, you'll have two wheels in front, two wheels in the back, and those two wheels, both at front and back, are connected by a round metal bar that turns when the wheels turn. That is the axle. And he also used cardboard. I guessed plastic, but it was actually cardboard, which is a thick type of paper. It's sort of constructed to be a little bit thicker, a little bit stronger. When we think of boxes, the type of boxes that your packages will be delivered in, that type of thing, that is often made of cardboard. So, a slightly stronger, stiffer type of paper product that you can use to, make things as well if you're getting creative with it.
And we're going to move on to look at the Tech Deck brand that comes out of this original idea in just a moment. But let's listen to our Chinese teacher first.
听众朋友大家好，我是安娜。我们今天要带大家来看一个运动，可是这个运动不是身体全部的运动，是手指滑板耶。其实我们现在在市面上都可以看到好小的迷你滑板，好可爱哦。它可不是只有装饰哦，它真的是一种指尖上的运动。好，我们来看一下今天这个文章。这文章呢是设计成为综合测验，也就是克漏字。不过综合测验现在的演变真的大概只有一题会考所谓的文法，其他通常都是单字或者是片语连接词，所以大家的字汇量要特别注意哦。我们待会会特别注意一下第一题，因为第一题考的是大家常常会混淆的所谓的关系子句、关代关复这些用法。好，所以文章一开始就先问了，用这个 question 来当成一个 topic sentence， 问大家说有没有用手指来玩滑板。那这个手指滑板的运动，其实它真的就是用中指跟食指来控制迷你滑板的这种运动哦。那我们说这个滑板真的很小，对不对？只有几公分那么长，但是真正的玩家可以在桌面上这种专业玩家，他可以执行各种令人印象很深刻的技巧。我们来看一下，在第一段第二句，也就是问题第一题这个地方，这里的空格到底要填什么？好，我们先分析一下选项哦。选项的 A 跟 B 都是关代，选项的 C 跟 D 的话呢，都是副词。副词的意思，像 C 的 in which 指的是在先行词当中，那 D 的 for which 指的是为了先行词。好，那这个 A、B 跟 C、D 有什么差别呢？如果 A、B 的答案是关代，这个关代的代名词在自己括号里面的关系子句当中，它是名词，所以它可能会当成句子的主词或者是受词。可是 C 跟 D 的答案是副词，也就是说 C 跟 D 这个答案之后呢，我们看到都会是一个完整的句子，因为在英文当中完整的句子才可以无限的加上副词来做修饰。所以回过头来看到句子，真正的关键就是要分析一下，在空格这个所谓的关系词之后，到底有没有缺主词受词。那我们要怎么判断呢？原则上我们第一步先把关系子句找出来，所以从空格开始一直到句尾我们先左右括号。接下来我们在句子当中找动词，动词的前面原则上就会是主词例如在这个句子左右括号的 in which 跟句尾当中，我们看到的动词是 use 使用。那使用的前面已经有 rider， 也就是这些玩家，使用的后面也有受词 their middle and index fingers to control blah blah blah， 感觉上句子什么都不缺。如果你要凭语感的话，你会发现句子的语义都完整了。那这个时候这一格当然只能够填上副词的 in which。 那为什么不是 D 呢？因为如果是为了先行词，为了这个 sport， 那语义就怪了，所以应该是要 C 选项 in which， 在这个运动当中玩家到底是怎么样来玩这个迷你滑板。好，那接着我们就来看第二段咯。第二段当然一定会提到一下，为什么会有手指滑板这种 origin， 它的起源是如何呢？在一开始句首的主题句当中，我们就看到 be traced back， 被追溯回一个美国滑板的爱好者。那当时因为是雨天他没有办法到户外去练习，所以就在室内开始操控迷你滑板。当然第二句是一个分词构句啦，我们曾经说过，如果句首突然看到 ing、pp 或形容词，通常都是句子的简化。那它的简化是什么句子简化呢？原本句子应该是 because he was， 因为他没有办法把这个连接词、主词跟 be 动词都删掉之后，剩下的是 unable， 因为当时没办法外出，所以就发明了这个运动。而在第二段后面的3、4句当中也有关系子句但第3句是限定用法的关系子句，而且关系词 which 或者是 that 被省略掉了。我们来看第二段的第3句，先行词是 the fingerboarding， 后面的 we 到句尾的 we see today 是关系子句。 那中间省略的 which 或 that， 因为在本身括号这个关系子句当中当成 see， 我们所认为我们所看到的 see 的受词，所以关带的 which 或 that 可以直接省略。那当然最后面第四句逗点之后的 which 到句尾就是补充说明的关系子句咯。
All right, we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back and we're continuing on in the end of this paragraph. And we know we've talked about, Lance Mountain making his first little miniature or tiny skateboard. And in the 1990s, a Canadian toy company launched or created the Tech Deck brand, successfully bringing fingerboarding to the global market. Now, these tech decks, they're quite amazing if you have seen them. They have all sorts of designs. So if you've ever been a Hot Wheels car collector, you might also find yourself interested in being a tech deck collector because all the bottoms have like everything you can dream of, that might have a tie-dye design or a skeleton design. And there's even like a skate, it's SK8, skate container with a modular skate park in it. So you can put together a little skate park and then you can run your tech deck along the skate park. You can grab rails, you can jump off of jumps and things like that. That's pretty cool stuff. And they were really quite successful. They brought fingerboarding to the global market. So they went everywhere. They didn't just stay in one little place in Canada. They went all over the globe. While fingerboarding may seem simple, mastering it is not easy. So it's probably pretty easy to put your fingers on a teeny tiny skateboard, but being able to get it to do what you want it to do and do it every time so that you are a master at using it, that's not so easy. Basic tricks like the ollie require precise coordination between the middle and index fingers to make the skateboard pop into the air. So the ollie is one where you kick the tail of the board down while you're jumping so that the board pops into the air and you stay on it, right? You're like ollie and you pop up into the air. And it requires precise coordination, precise being very exact, very, very delicate and very detailed and coordination. So precise, a lot of times when we're talking about math, you're not going to guess a number. You're going to find the precise number that answers a mathematical equation. And in that way, you will be very precisely solving the problem. Coordination means kind of a harmonious function of the parts, whatever parts. A lot of times we're talking about coordination with our body. So somebody who's very good at sports has a lot of physical coordination. They're good at their hand-eye motions. They're able to catch a ball with one hand, touch the base with the other foot, things like that. It takes a little bit of coordination. Some people have no coordination. They're absolutely very clumsy. Here we're talking about this move requiring these special, precise motions to happen together with the middle and index fingers, making the skateboard pop into the air. There's other tricks too.
Absolutely. So yeah, an ollie, of course, is a regular skateboarding trick that has been converted to do on fingerboards. I imagine it's hard because, as you said, ollies, you kind of, kick the board down with your back foot and let it rise with your front, but you're using your whole body weight to do that. With a fingerboard.
Snowboarders do it too, right?
Sorry?
Snowboarders do it too, right?
Snowboarders do it too.
Yeah.
But with a fingerboard, of course, you're just using your hand and your finger muscles and things like that. So yes, it would probably be a very different type of trick, even if you understand the basics of how it's done. And it says more advanced tricks, or more advanced or complicated or difficult tricks, such as the kick flip, involve flipping the board 360 degrees during a jump, which demands practice and finger skill. So the kick flip is another trick that comes from the world of regular skateboarding outdoors on, a proper-sized board, standing on it with your feet, but doing it with your fingers, in either case, it involves flipping the board 360 degrees, so making the board spin right around in a circle, and that demands practice and finger skill. Again, a very challenging trick for most skateboarders to master. On a normal skateboard, I can imagine it would be much harder on a fingerboard. But the good thing is if you make a mistake on a fingerboard, you won't fall off and scrape your knees or land on your bum and hurt yourself. I guess you'll just be embarrassed and then you'll have to find your fingerboard after it goes sliding under a sofa or being chased off by your cat. But either case, these tricks involve flipping the board. Now, when you flip something, you basically make it turn end over end through 180 or 360 degrees. If you've ever cooked a pancake, you'll flip the pancake, or you might have to flip an omelet or something like that. Or if you're choosing which side goes first in a game, you might get a coin, and then you send it spinning up into the air. You flip that coin, and if it lands on one of the two sides, one of the two teams will be the first to play, or the first team to kick the ball or whatever. So that's what you're doing. You're not just making the board jump into the air, you're making it jump while it's spinning or flipping. So, are you ready to give it a try? After all this information that we've given you, grab a fingerboard and start practicing. The article encourages you. You might just get hooked on this tiny, challenging sport. And I think a good way to maybe learn more is find some probably cool YouTube videos. I'm sure you can get lots of little, tutorials and classes there, or just see a good demonstration of fingerboarding. Because, as we head through the winter months here and it's rainy, it might be your new love for indoor sports.
All right, everybody, let's listen to our Chinese teacher one more time.
而接下来我们就看到了1990年代的时候，加拿大的玩具公司就创立了品牌，把这个所谓的迷你手指滑板带到了全球的市场。第5句也是个分词构句哦，可是这个分词构句呢，我们看到的是动词 and 所连接第二个动词变成 ing 的一个所谓 and 省略的分词构句。我们回过头来看到第二段第5句当中，先把第一个动词抓出来，就是 launched 这个动词，推出开始这个动词，逗点之后本来应该有一个连接词的 and 连接后面另外一个动词，也就是 bring 的过去式，有没有？可是因为我们开始看到它推出产品，然后把这个滑板迷你滑板带到全球的市场，几乎其实是同时甚至是跟随着紧接而来的动作，所以常常会把 and 连接词省略掉，后面第二个动词就直接变成动词 ing。 好，那最后面我们看到第3段就要来收尾一下咯。手指滑板看起来小小的，好像很简单很好操作，用手滑一滑，没有其实除了基本的技巧之外，还有一些进阶的技巧，比如说像是翻板。那如果你在翻板的时候呢，就需要用跳跃的方式把滑板翻转360度，当然需要很多的练习。好，所以最后面第3段就提醒我们，其实它也是要靠很多的练习。我们在最后第3段的第3句有一个补充说明的关系子句，我们可以把逗点之后的 which 到句尾左右括号，不过这个时候要看一下文意哦，因为 which 如果是放在逗点之后是补充说明的关系子句开始的关代，它有可能指的先行词是逗点前面的名词，或者是逗点前面的整句话。那在这里的确它的先行词是逗点前面的名词，但是不是 jump， 是往前一点点，从 flipping 开始一直到 jump， 也就是翻转360度这件事情。好，我们说了这么多，或许你对迷你滑板开始有新的认知，想要试试看咯。以上是我们今天的内容，我是安娜，我们下次见。
So I have to say that my kids have been completely addicted to tech decks through their whole childhood. And it makes me think that if you can call this a sport nowadays, which is really cool, I wonder if there are, as we mentioned before, those Guinness records possible. What I think is it kind of reminds me of kids that get really, really bored in the cold months, and they figure out all sorts of cool games. Like maybe you build a tent where you can, create a real cool fort made out of blankets and pillows from the sofa, and you can crawl through your tent and create your imaginary world. Or you might create an Olympic sport that you play inside where you compete against each other. Like you have, I don't know, a 3-legged man race with all your friends inside the house because it's too cold outside, or you toss a ball around and you see how many times you can bounce a ball on the paddleboard or something like that. Or you see if you can make the slinky go all the way down the stairs in one go. But the funniest one is like, too, when you try to like take a piece of cardboard and lay it on the stairs and try to slide all the way down the stairs yourself. These are the things that you might do if you are, trying to figure out how to deal with the boredom of the winter months. And yeah, it's something that definitely was probably what created this whole idea of these tiny skateboards. It's a pretty amazing thing to think about, that you can create this game and this sport just because you're bored, but it lets you know that, or say, for example, even maybe creating a board game because you're so bored. You can create a game with your friends, a board game with your friends that you can play. Both of my kids did that when they were younger. You roll it up later. Maybe you want to sell it, you produce it and sell it to Ravensburger and have them make a great game for the world to try out. All we're really saying is get out there, have fun. When you're bored, try to think of something really creative to do, and it's pretty guaranteed that you're going to find something cool like these tech decks. Take care.